Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Whole Home Show here on CFAX 1070. I'm Tony Joe. I'm your host here every week, and we bring you tips, education, and updates on all things about your home. If you are looking at buying or selling in the real estate market, or if you have no plan to sell or buy at all, but want to think about improvements around your home or decorating ideas or things to further improve your castle, your home, this is a great place for you to be. Our show comes to you every week with the support of our show partners: Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group; JP Sellers, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance; the Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate, and personal injury needs; and Silhouette Home Inspections with Pierre Beauvais. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give any of the Whole Home Show team members a call. They would love to hear from you. I'm happy to be your host here every week. I've been doing so for 4 years now and over 200 episodes. I love talking about real estate and answering every question that you guys have. And of course, I've been a practicing realtor here in Greater Victoria for 30 years. Over 30 years, I've helped hundreds of people with their first time purchases or sales or investment properties and a number of other things. I'd be happy to help you as well too if you are looking for some real estate direction or advice, second opinion, or anything. Just reach out to me. Myself and the rest of our Whole Home Show team members, you can find our contact information by visiting cfax1070.com. Look under shows. You'll find us, the Whole Home Show, with me, Tony Joe, and all of our contact information is there. Or just go online, the power of the internet. Google Tony Joe Real Estate or the Whole Home Show CFAX. You'll find our contact information. 'Tis the spooky season. Here we are nearing Halloween. Things start getting fun, of course. You see the pumpkins down in Oak Bay Avenue. People are decorating their houses. My neighbor has a fantastic Halloween display. It is just amazing. Of course, it's a fun time for families and kids alike, but it also brings forward the thoughts about some spooky stuff. And because this is, after all, a home show, a real estate program, we like having guests that talk about supernatural activities. And we have, coming back to our program after a 3-year hiatus, our friends from Cornerstone Supernatural. Our guests today are Paul Busch and Janine McCaw. They are both directors of the organization and investigators. We're going to be hearing all about the supernatural and the paranormal things that are going on. These guys are from Vancouver, by the way. They service the entire province of BC, but talking about some places in Victoria and some of the fun stuff that happens here. Is it spooky? Is it scary? It isn't all. When you listen, I think we're going to find that there are some logical explanations to some of the paranormal activities that you may be encountering. So can't wait to chat with them. We'll have them here in just a moment. Now, of course, we always like chatting or talking at the start here. And if you have something that you'd like us to cover on our program, just reach out to me, Tony at primeteam.ca, or again, Google Tony Joe Real Estate, Tony Joe Remax, CFAX, whatever. I love hearing from our listeners here. And we will have your question answered on our program here. And now, because we're talking about paranormal activity, one thing that I do want to cover with you today is the notion of, does a seller or do the realtors need to disclose if a house is haunted? And I want to have a quick conversation with you about this because there is a distinction, there is a difference between a defect in a home, and that's what we call a material latent defect. A material latent defect, by law, it's both the real estate rules and the common law. It is required that a seller, so that might be you if you're selling, a seller discloses any material latent defect to parties who are interested in the property. What is a material latent defect? That is a defect that could render the real estate dangerous or potentially dangerous to occupants, or unfit for habitation, and things that are difficult, if not impossible, to be discovered by a standard inspection. Now, we got building inspections that happen whenever people are buying homes. They hire an inspector like our show sponsor, Pierre Beauvais at Silhouette Inspections. He is not Superman. He does not, well, he's great, but he's not Superman. He doesn't have X-ray vision. He's not able to look into walls. He can only see things that are visually possible to see. And of course, in the case of a material latent defect, this could be a great example is a grow op, something that was previously used as a grow op, illegally done. We hear many cases of this in the Lower Mainland. And a number of things have happened, where they pirated hydro or power from neighboring properties. They created an environment inside the house where they could grow illegal cannabis. And what that typically does is it introduces a lot of moisture into the house. And consequently, there are issues with mold, with mildew, with air quality matters. Now, when some of these maybe unsavory people went and sold the properties, they prepared it and they removed every evidence of this grow operation, except for the fact that the mold remains within the walls. And there's no way you would be able to tell this unless you pulled the walls off, the drywall off, and did really, really invasive inspection on the property. So that is a material latent defect. If a owner is aware that there is a defect of the house that could have economic impact on it, negative economic impact, they must report by the law. Now, circling back to what we're talking about, we're chatting today about haunted properties. Does a seller need to disclose a haunted property? Is that a material latent defect? And the answer is no. That's what the British Columbia Financial Services Authority, our basically governing body of real estate, that's what they call a stigma. And what is a stigma? Does it need to be disclosed? I am right now looking at the bcfsa.ca public resources webpage. And it says here, a stigma occurs when a consumer expresses a concern about a property for reasons that do not affect the structure or land. Most stigmas are related to a person's beliefs, values, and perceptions, ethnic background, religion, gender, age, and other individual concerns. Examples of stigmas include specific numbers in the property address that could bring good or bad luck. We've heard of that one before. A criminal living in the neighborhood, a death on the property, or a haunted property, which is what we are talking about right now. It says here, while the list is not exhaustive, sellers and landlords are not obligated to disclose the existence of a stigma unless they are specifically asked about it. For instance, if a buyer asks about any known deaths in the home, a seller refuses to answer the question. A seller may refuse to answer the question or can answer truthfully with a yes, no, or I don't know. If a buyer or tenant receives false or misleading information, they may have legal recourse, right? So again, what we're saying here is the material latent defect that does have an economic impact on the property needs to be disclosed by common law and by our rules, the real estate regulator rules. But a stigma, as mentioned here, like a haunted property, does not need to be disclosed unless asked specifically for it. That's the reason why on these forms, we've got this property disclosure statement that gets filled out with every listing. That's a requirement of the real estate board. There's a question there about material latent defect, but there is not a question about stigma, as you may mention, as you may notice if you've gone through this. So that's the difference between a stigma and a material latent defect. And of course, we're talking about haunted homes today, haunted properties, and a haunted property is a stigma. We need to take our first break of the day here. Before I forget, though, if you're a podcast listener, go visit us on iTunes or Google Play. Look for The Whole Home Show with me, Tony Joe. All 200 of our episodes the last 4 years are on the program, including the last time I spoke with our guest today, which was a few years ago. When we come back, we're going to be having a conversation with Cornerstone Supernatural and our guests, Paul and Janine. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to the Whole Home Show. This is always a fun time of year. We got different seasons and different things that happen. Christmas is coming up. We just finished Thanksgiving. Easter is going to be after the new year. All of these fun things. But there is no more fun time than the Halloween season. And of course, we are a real estate show. We talk about houses, we talk about properties. And of course, at this time of year, things start getting a little spooky. And that's why we got to have with us here our guest today from Cornerstone Supernatural. We have Paul Busch and Janine McCaw. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Doing great. And you know what? Hey, it's been 3 years. We had you guys on the program 3 years ago. And it's great to have you back.
Hey, time flies, hey?
It does. Yeah. It does. And I have to thank you guys because you reached out to us a few weeks back, and you're going to tell us about some things that you've been encountering here in Greater Victoria. But let's start by talking about what is Cornerstone Supernatural. So tell our listeners what it is that you guys do.
Well, we're paranormal investigators, but I think like Janine calls herself, she's a
paranormal philosopher. So
Ah,
I don't like the term ghost hunter because we do a little bit more than that. We kind of like to look at everything from ghosts to UFOs to Bigfoot to anything that is paranormal, meaning not normal.
And so we've been active in British Columbia for a few years. We've got paranormal investigators with us. It's been with us from everywhere, from just starting out, just starting to see how they can go with their talents, to people that have been with us and doing it for over 35 years. So it's a good mix of people. Since we last talked, Tony, we have opened up the interior British Columbia as well. So we've now got 30 investigators located throughout British Columbia. So we got 15 in the Lower Mainland. We've got another 15 located in the interior, reaching from the way down south right up to Prince George. So it's a good mix of individuals, and we wanted to do that. We had some interest. We had a lot of locations that wanted us to come out and do what we do, but we were so busy with what was happening down here, we just didn't have the time to go.
yeah.
And one of our major paranormal investigators moved up to Kamloops, and it was just a natural progression, and there was people that were interested in coming out and doing what we do, and so it began. For the interior.
So tell us, and tell our listeners here too, who is your client? Like, who, generally speaking, who is making the call and saying, hey guys, come on out and visit?
A lot of historical societies, and it's great to be able to get a chance to go in and see their facilities. And what we tried to do is we tried to give back if we can. So we do fundraisers for historical societies as well, especially during these times when they don't have the attendance that they used to have prior to that lovely situation we're all in, right? So
Wow.
A lot of historical places, business places, often, people, their staff are saying, hey, there's some weird things going on and we can't explain them. So come on in, can you come and take a look when everybody's gone and just see if the things that we think are happening are really happening. So it's kind of a wide variety of places.
Yeah,
really.
it's a little bit of everything. I mean, everybody from somebody's home where they're feeling anxious, or they're hearing things that they can't quite explain, or seeing things that they, I don't know what that shadow is in the corner. And restaurants and theatrical places. I mean, it's a mixed bag. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an old location. It could be the building or the house that's sitting on the land. So the land might be old or have some history on it, and there might be a brand new building on top of it. And it's suddenly, I'm getting some of this activity here. I'd like to figure out what's going on. And it's a combination of things. It's a combination from locations telling other locations of what we do and that, and also just word of mouth. It's a lot of that happens, or just like me reaching out to you and saying, hey, how's it going, Tony? Haven't talked for a while, what's happening? Mm-hmm. I think there's some new things that we need to talk about, and so that opens up a whole bunch of doors, and that makes it for us, it makes it exciting as a hobby, because we don't charge for anything we do. We never have, we never will. And the other thing is when we go to places, and you know this because I asked you last weekend in matter of fact, is that we encourage that the locations we go to, that whoever lets us into that place, that they come along with us.
Come along.
So they get to experience what it is to do, what it's like to be on a paranormal investigation, using the different types of equipment, seeing how we do our questioning and that sort of stuff. But also, if they're there with us and they hear something or see something or something reacts, then they have the ability to say that they've actually experienced that. It's not us coming to them after and saying, thanks for letting us in, you've gone away, here's what we got. Because they don't know, a lot of cases they don't know us from hell of beans.
Yeah.
So it gives some validity to what how we do.
So right? I want to tell our listeners, you did so last week or a few days before last week. You said, "Hey, want to join us on Friday?" And it's I guess like most people, the bottom line is yes, I wanted to because I'm curious. I've never been on one before, right? I couldn't because I had another commitment, but the other half of me, and I guess it's just human nature, is kind of like, ooh, that's a little spooky. I don't know if I got that in me, right? So
we give you an exit door. It's okay.
Okay. Yes.
Or a safe word or something.
Yes.
A safe word. Yes. Thank you.
I'm scared. Okay.
And when we talk to people, and you'll probably find that out in a lot of situations, is there's one side of the coin that says, oh, I've got a story for you. I've had something happen to me, or my grandmother's told me this story, or I believe, or I've had this experience. There's the other side that says, don't talk to me, go away. You're nuts.
You're nuts, right?
There's no middle ground. There really isn't any middle ground. You can't be on one side, yeah, let's go, yeah, and then the other side, no, let's run away, So it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
And for sure, you should come along.
Oh, absolutely. So, and the other thing too is it brings me back to, we connected because whatever, it was more than 3 years ago, Paul, you reached out to me. You had found me because you were at the time doing some research on a college, and you were wondering if I had any knowledge or what. I did not, but that's why we invited you to the program. People have this impression, or they've been told, or they've read that, for instance, Victoria is a place that has a sort of heightened level of phenomenon. And you guys are telling us that you're also serving other marketplaces too, or other areas. Tell us about that. Are we extra spooky?
100%.
Sure. Victoria certainly has its
100%.
share of historical characters that may or may not have been nice people. So especially down around Bastion Square, where history has shown that there are a lot of things that went on in that area that during those times it may have seemed normal, but they probably were not legal by any standard or stretch of the imagination. And so that area in particular, which I'm assuming is one of the oldest areas in Victoria, certainly has some stories to tell.
Yeah.
And you can go to different places. I mean, you can go to Garrick's Head Pub. I mean, there's lots of stuff that's out there that you can read up about and research and talk about, that have had and welcome and embrace what they've had for activity within their location. I mean,
so you're talking like a restaurant or a business or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, even residential homes and that, I mean, there's a lot of unique places around there, and homes that have turned into museums of such. One of the locations, and we can talk about this, is the location that we invited you to come out to, was the Port Ellis House.
Well, listen, hold that thought, because we got to take a break here right now. We're going to pick up conversation. We're chatting today about supernatural activities with Janine McCaw and Paul Busch. They're both from Cornerstone Supernatural, because it is, after all, the season. But we need to take our break here. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. Our show comes to you every week with the support of our show partners, Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group. JP Sellas, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance. The Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs, and Silhouette Home Inspections with Pierre Beauvais. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give any of the Whole Home Show team members a call. They would love to hear from you. Of course, you can find their contact information by visiting cfax1070.com. Look under shows, and there you'll find us, the Whole Home Show with me, Tony Joe. You can always just Google us as well. Google Tony Joe Real Estate, CFAX. Or if you are a podcast listener, you can find all of our episodes on iTunes and Google Play, all 220 some odd episodes from the last 4 years. We're having a conversation today, because this is the season after all, about supernatural activities that happen here in Greater Victoria and elsewhere in British Columbia as well. Our guests are Paul Busch and Janine McCaw from Cornerstone Supernatural. Again, guys, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having us, and happy Halloween, everybody.
Oh yes, of course, of course. Oh, and now you guys are in Vancouver, so you're not based here in Victoria, but you serve all the neighborhoods. You've been over. I want to go back to what we were talking about before the break, which was you guys did a what do you call it? An examination or a visit?
Investigation.
An actual paranormal investigation. Yeah.
All right. And so tell us about what happened last week.
Well, we had, and again, we had the opportunity. We had a few of our investigators that happened to be in the Victoria area for the October long weekend, and we've had requests from a wide different variety of places located right up and down Vancouver Island. So we contacted a couple of them and said, "Are you interested in a very short period of time? If you're interested for us to come in and do the investigation that we've talked about." And absolutely. In fact, we did not one, but two on the weekend, which is a little bit of a stretch, because generally when you do a paranormal investigation, you come home from that or come away from that and you're drained.
Pretty exhausting.
Because I think that whatever's there, energy, ghosts, spirits, they feed off the energy that you bring to that, in this case, an investigation. And we just happened to be at the Point Ellis house in close to the old school area of downtown Victoria. And it has been known for having paranormal activity and having different things happen there. And yes, they had some very, they're still going over some of the evidence, because it does take some time. If you've got 5 recorders running for 4 hours and you've got 20 hours of listening or audio or video to go over. But just from
because spirits don't act on cue, right?
No.
So you got yes. All right.
No.
And most of the time, you don't even hear them at the time, because they're in a different frequency than a lot of people's normal hearing is, right? So we'll wait till we get back and we're listening to our recorders on playback, and then you will pick up something that you didn't hear at the time usually.
Yeah. So it's gonna what I've got, because one of our investigators over there, she's an up and coming medium psychic within our group, and she started out again just testing the waters, and because she felt she had some abilities, and with the years that she's been with us, it's continued to grow and grow and grow. So when she was over there, it was an actual welcoming investigation that she conducted. And Phoenix, who is another of our extremely talented, he's an audio engineer. And so he's got all the toys and the bells and the whistles to bring into an investigation to see if there's different, again, frequencies or different things that he can pick up or bring back to his equipment and work on it and see what can transpire. That was an extremely interesting investigation. There was feelings of a child, feelings of a young woman in there, and some confusion, which is kind of unique, because you never know what you're going to get into. We've never run into, Tony, and again, there's a lot of television out there on paranormal, okay? Don't get me wrong, they want to sell that particular program, so they take the best of and try to enhance it so that it becomes more of an audience magnet.
Yeah, more entertaining.
Yeah.
Sure,
So
sure.
I mean, we have yet to come across something where the devil's coming out of the wall and it's
No
going to eat you.
demons.
Okay. It's usually
It's not a demon.
sometimes it's the darkness can be confusion.
Yeah.
Like where am I? What am I doing here? How come I'm in this? Because for me, I believe there's more than this. So, and a lot of people do believe in something more than. But we have this at the same time, we have people in our group that don't. So it's kind of interesting to have that.
The mix. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you can feed off of each other.
Well, and this is what I was going to ask you. So when you guys got asked to do an investigation, what really is the outcome aside from identifying this? Like, are people hoping? I'm guessing it's not like a pest control thing where, if people are trying to get rid of this. Is it just more knowledge, or what is it that people are hoping to achieve?
Generally speaking, the most of the people are quite content with what's going on in their surroundings once they come to the terms with the fact that they're not hearing things, that they're not crazy, right? That somebody else is hearing it as well, or somebody else is seeing what they've seen. In most situations, there's no harmful activity going on. It's more of a case of, I don't know why these taps turned on at work all by themselves. Is it a plumbing problem? Could be. Is something going on that, why is it only going on when it's after work and nobody else is around? So we go in and we try to figure those things out. So in most cases, again, they're quite happy with, oh, no, I don't mind. I don't mind this person or whoever I think this person is being around, as long as, they're not causing us any harm.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I have a friend, a good friend. They own a business and they have an old character house in Victoria. And when they bought it, she says to me, she goes, "Oh yeah, we got a ghost." And she's completely, it's like a roommate, right? Yeah, these things, whatever. That's just part of the fun of it. And yet, on the other hand, I know that for a lot of people, this is too much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in some cases, like we have people on our team, and it's not what we do in general, but we have people on our team that if they feel that if somebody feels like, look, I got whatever's here, I need help in getting them to cross over or pass or leave.
Get out of here.
And they can do that, and we can recommend them and do that. But as a group, as a team, and as whole, that's not generally what we do. It's trying to come into a location, regardless of whatever it is, and help that individual, or figure out maybe there's more evidence or more to just the tappings on the wall, and could it be something else? Give you an example. We had a investigation at a high-end restaurant, and one of the staff members was always complaining that somebody's watching. There's always something here. And he happened to be around a bar area on the lower floor of this 2-story restaurant. He was always complaining about that. So we went in, we did our thing bright and early in the morning, because this restaurant was open early, closed late. And besides the raccoons chasing the squirrels outside, but inside, we checked his area of work. And yeah, nice and clean, all the bottles and everything else, and serving area was cool. But there's a wall, and behind this wall was a compressor unit that, the owner knew about, but the staff members. So if you think about it, a compressor gives out a lot of EMF. And so we feel that individual was sensitive to that type of
electromagnetic field.
Yeah. So it's just like going into the basement of a house. Okay.
You get that feeling. Right?
You got that feeling. The hairs go up, and you think that somebody's in the laundry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And first thing we say, take a look above you. What's in your, if it's an open house and they got the beams there, take a look above you. What's running there? And it's usually electrical wiring running back to the electrical box. Or like I said, in the laundry room, you've got a lot of high voltage going into the dryer, as an example. Yeah. So that, again, same thing, gives out a lot of EMF. That individual, it might not be a haunted house, but that person is very sensitive to an EMF.
You just get-
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, listen, we need to take our last break of the day here, guys. We're having a conversation today with our friends from Cornerstone Supernatural, Paul Busch and Janine McCaw. By the way, if you guys are interested, make sure you visit cornerstonesupernatural.com. Need to take our last break. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. We're talking today with our friends from Cornerstone Supernatural, director and investigator Paul Busch, and also director investigator Janine McCaw. Thanks again, guys, for joining us.
Not a problem.
Always
Gotta
fun,
love it
always
here.
fun.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, just before the break, we're talking about the fact that you guys identified what is not necessarily a supernatural experience, but this waiter you were talking about maybe just had a heightened connection to the electromagnetic
Field.
field. Yeah. So
it just go ahead. Sorry.
So I guess that's also what you're helping people find, right?
Yeah.
If here's another thing. I mean, if you're surrounded by a bunch of computer systems, okay, you go by it and you're right away, you get the feelings on your arms, or you're typing away and working on this, and you're always feeling that something is watching you or anything like that. The computer itself, or certain computers, will give off a lot of this field, right? Or your phone, certain phones will give off a lot of EMF. And
Wi-Fi modems.
100%. Yeah.
Don't sit too close to
No.
Wow.
Even things like a microwave. If you go by a microwave, it gives, and we've got different types of equipment that we go by. When we first get into an investigation, we go through and search out the house or the location to see where are some of the, what we call hotspots, or where are some of the things that our equipment will pick up a high degree of electromagnetic field, because that is one of the keys to people feeling weird in their own homes.
Yeah.
And so we'll go around, check it, and say, this is one location, this is another location, and then talk with the people that are there and say, is this an area where you feel some of these things that are happening, or where you think that there's a ghost? Because it can create other things in individuals, that they can be nauseous, they can be extremely disorientated with this field. Believe it or not, it gives off a lot. Like, do you live under hydro lines or anything that's high in electromagnetic or electro voltage, that'll do.
Amazing. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, right? Because I know, because one of my job is to go through people's houses, and every once in a while I get that feeling. It's like, ooh, what is that, right? But that makes a lot of sense. Now, that being said, that is a sort of quantitative and logical explanation to this. There are some things in which there are not explanations, and on your website,
100%.
you guys have some paranormal evidence. And oh my goodness, listen, ladies and gentlemen, you got to go visit cornerstonesupernatural.com. There's a picture on here. You got a photo where there's in the mirror somebody who is not part of the team, right? You also have an audio clip, which I was very interested in, and it's an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, right?
Right.
So tell us about that.
Which one was that? One?
Anyone. So when you find,
well, tell the one that
I get a bunch of them. Yeah, so that is my favorite way to investigate, and for other people, it's one of the easiest and least cost-effective methods to do it, is to grab a digital audio recorder and just start asking some questions, because sometimes you'll be really surprised when you play it back that there may be an answer there you're not expecting. We had gone into this one historical site in BC, and we took our equipment in it. Everything was going off. The K2 meters were going off. The REM pod was going off. It was really noisy, like really noisy. And we, checked the wires and everything, and there wasn't any voltage coming from that. So that wasn't what was setting off the meters. But I'm like, okay, it's got to be a kid because they're messing with us, right? They're turning all, it's like their best toy. It's going on and off and playing around or whatever. And so at one point I said, something like, come over, like, see that red light? If you go next to it, it's not going to hurt you. And we don't hear anything at the time, but later on there's a, yeah, afterwards. So that was like thrilling to hear afterwards that there was another voice that said something that we didn't hear at the time. Right. Yeah. It's even like when we use the SLS camera, which is the structured light sensor. You guys will know it like the skeleton machine you see on ghost shows. Is that it's one thing if you're using it in a room because it will try to make anything out to be a skeleton, like a coat rack, a lamp, it'll be a skeleton. But if you're in an empty room and it pops up, that's one thing. But if you can get it to interact with you, that's totally a different thing. And that's where we go, I don't know, because we don't know. We're not, we don't have the answers by any means, but it's like, okay, hold my hand, and it comes out and that stick figure touches your hand. And it's like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Don't know what it is, but obviously something's there if it's reacting to what you're asking it to do.
Yeah. Well, you guys clearly are not spooked. I mean, this is what you guys do. This is what you enjoy doing. How can you be so stoic about this kind of stuff? Like, again, others would be like just freaked out, right?
I think because Tony is that during the time that we're there, regardless of whatever is going on, is we're so concentrating on everything. Like if you're and people ask, well, does it have to be done in the dark or anything like that? No. I mean, the one Janine was talking about with Kid, that was done like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be during night when it's dark. However, a lot of our equipment works a lot better when it's dusk, dark, or anything like that. So that's why lights are off and
your senses are up.
Yeah,
too, right?
your hearing's more intense. Your eyesight's trying to pick up movements and things like that. So if we can, do it that way, it makes it so much more interesting for because we're so concentrating on everything that's happening. You don't have time to be like, oh, I got the bejesus scared out of me, I gotta run. And it's never, because I don't think usually I don't think it's, well, we have one individual on our team for sure. If anything's going to happen, if someone's going to be poked, touched, scratched, it's him.
That person.
100%.
So he's got the gift. He's got the gift.
He's the magnet.
Oh my!
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be spirit wise like a person. Yeah. I call Janine the Dog Whisperer because for sure, if we got into a place and there's been rumors or things heard about a dog, Janine will catch it on our digital recorders.
Oh, so we're talking pet spirits as well, huh?
Yeah. We've run across that. Or if you're in a location and they have a live animal and it won't go into one particular room, we'll bring that animal with us and stay outside the room and just watch the animal, because the animal will basically try to focus on something or have its ears perked up watching and seeing what's there.
Mm-hmm. That I have heard of before. I have heard also of pets that avoid certain rooms. Yes.
Children are another 100%. They are, I think, more in tune with what we are doing and what we can't see than anything, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I do know of a case of a little girl who identified a lovely elderly lady in their house and was talking to her for like on many occasions, and of course the parents never witnessed any of that.
Yeah.
But I guess I hear you here. That heightened sense of awareness, right?
And the child doesn't know there's anything wrong with it, right? They haven't been told to be afraid or.
I've a close friend of mine called me the other day and said, "Geez, I think I've got something in," because he knows what I do. And he said, "I think I've got something here." And I said, "Well, why do you say that?" And he says, "Well, my son, who's only, I don't know, 5-6 years old, he has an ongoing conversation with his grandfather." And, so a kid that young, I don't think, like Janine says, doesn't have that ability to discern what's real and what's not real. Mm-hmm. And to him, they're having that conversation.
Yeah.
So it makes it
and it could be a fantasy friend. We've all had those, but sometimes, sometimes the child comes up with information that about an individual, like a grandmother or grandfather.
How did you know?
They
Right.
had no idea. Exactly. And then you kind of go, okay, what's going on there? Right.
Interesting.
But again, we've never run across anything that's really bad.
Yeah.
We've even run across spirits entity that are they like to play with us. They like to slam doors. They like to, when we're not there, they want to get our attention. So it's kind of funny that way. So we were at a theater, same thing. There was three ghosts in this particular location. One, we think that she's passed, but she loved the theater so much that this was what was important to her. So we have another one where we're at a bar, same thing, bar, like drinking scotch. So that's where, if you pass, what was your favorite activity? You like doing this. Maybe when you pass, Tony, you're going to be the ghost of
the radio station.
of the radio.
CFAX. Yeah.
There we go.
Like, oh, it's that Tony guy again.
Oh my, that's amazing. Well, I want to make sure our listeners know, in order to find you guys, just go to cornerstonesupernatural.com, right? Cornerstone
Correct.
Supernatural.
Yep.
And again, I want to tell you, our listeners here, there's things, on the paranormal evidence page, you guys have a whole bunch of stuff there that should be checked out. And again, some people love this, some people are just spooked. Sometimes it's a cultural thing. I know that we Asians typically are pretty spooked about this kind of stuff, but I have mentioned on the program before, I've also had people that say, I love haunted houses, I would happily own one. So who knows, right?
Yeah. They can. Your listeners can also find us on our Facebook page, Cornerstone Supernatural. We've got over 2,500 members worldwide. It's a safe place, which is another really important thing for us, to tell stories and share evidence and ask questions. Because I think people need talking about the paranormal. I think is healthy.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, hey, listen, guys. I can't believe it's been 3 years. Let's make sure we do this this time next year as well.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. We'd love to.
Love having you guys. And again, it's Paul Busch and Janine McCaw, both directors and investigators at Cornerstone Supernatural. And what I'm taking away from you guys today, and our listeners are as well too, is it's not necessarily a supernatural experience. Sometimes it is explainable through regular day-to-day, electronic or electric activity, right?
Yep. Yep, for sure.
There we go. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Cheers.
Tony, anytime.
Yeah, and to the rest of our listeners, we'll be here for you this time next week.